Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so that you can learn even more about how to heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is one of my favorite people, Magnus Mulliner. And we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is how to develop empowered chi. Magnus Mulliner is a chi expert, and you can find out more about Magnus and his excellent work at mtenergy.com. That's MT, and then energy is spelled ENERGIE.com. Welcome, Magnus Mulliner.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Magnus, one of the things that gives us energy is passion. And you definitely bring a lot of passion to everything you do. How would you describe for our audience what your major passion in life actually is?
I would say in a nutshell, my passion is to remind people that which they may have forgotten. And the reason I say that is because it's so easy today to be misled and misfed by what I call lamestream or mainstream. So really, even though I used to teach at a university, I don't teach anything to anyone now. I just like to say I just remind self and others what we've actually forgotten.
Okay, now when we talk about energy, there's a lot of words for energy. In India, they call it prana. In China, they call it chi. And you know it when you have it, and you know it when you don't have it. In fact, lack of energy and adrenal burnout is so pandemic in our society that one of my 6 Amazon #1 bestsellers is It's called Unlimited Energy Now. And one of my 2 websites, unlimitedenergynow.com, you can find out all about how to have more energy. So, again, how would you describe what chi is, Magnus?
I understand chi. I studied a lot of David Data's work, and it's like the female smart energy, and it's that which kind of all-encompassing. And I'm sure some of the terms that I'll shout out people have heard of before, but really it's down to what I call also like the ATP, the adenosine triphosphate. It's like what happens at the mitochondrial levels. And unfortunately, as we seem to age, many people before their time, they just seem to lose that. And it's something which really it's our birthright to be able to thrive as opposed to just survive. And so for me, like anything, it's reminding people that they can do that just by making simple daily distinctions. But it's obviously to the degree that they want to, because anything and everything in our life, as you know, Catherine, is about meaning. And believe it or not, I was looking the other day how long I've actually known you and listened to you and watched you and read some of your books. And it's been over 10 years. And I like to think, and I often say this in a joke when I meet people, although I'm nearly 48 years young, I still behave like I'm 12 and a half. And maybe that's a good thing, because we never really want to lose that childlike nature, do we? So, but yeah, to me, the energy, it's our birthright.
Yeah. Now, in my book, Unlimited Energy Now, I start out by describing the 3 stages of adrenal stress. And so I'm going to go over these for our audience. But one way to think of them is as your adrenal stress goes up, your energy goes down. So in the first stage of adrenal stress, it's called the alarm phase. So you begin to have stress. Then in phase 2, you adapt. It's like, okay, I guess this is the so-called normal way or the usual way. And stage 3 is exhaustion. And I have lots of clients who are in stage 3 who can barely get out of bed. They can barely function. I've had clients who tell me, Catherine, on a good day, I get out of bed and brush my teeth. It's like, that is no way to live. And so part of what I find is necessary to help people recover from these later stages of adrenal burnout is to develop personal practices that help you cultivate your qi. Now, in Tai Chi and Qigong, which is the Chinese martial arts, the way I like to describe it is like if you're playing the Monopoly game. And when you play Monopoly, everybody starts out with the same amount of money. And that's not exactly true for people because, you may have gotten really good genes from your parents. You may be raised right. Your parents may be feeding you organic food and you're breathing fresh air and getting lots of exercise and being told every day how wonderful you are. But for a lot of us, that isn't how we start out. So at any rate, Magnus, how do you feel that qi can benefit everyone?
Well, I believe that it can benefit everyone because ultimately it gives us the greater freedom to do that which you want to do. But this kind of links into previously what you kind of touched on before, that for me, it's to know exactly that which you want to do. In other words, what's your big dream? So for some people, they may be lost. And again, this links in with what I previously said, because we're constantly bombarded, mimetically, meme means to copy, by our environment. And so it's to be mindful, really, of certainly look at what the first thing I do is seek first to understand what people are doing that are perhaps putting deposits in their health bank account or taking withdrawals. And hopefully on that search, we can then remind them or empower them to make smarter choices. And so, obviously energy is everything. And a simple practice, and I know we have many, would be just a breathing one. Just to be mindful of how you breathe. And as you know, 2/3 of your lungs are low down and 1/3 is up on the chest side. So just to be aware of that can enhance one's prana. But you also touched on a beautiful area about, I often say it this way, that, exercise, and X is a has-been, a size people don't want to become. I know it's a play on words, but really any fool can work out. It's not about working out, and especially a lot of people. I've got some stats. I think Bill Walcott just posted them. 163 million Americans wanting to lose weight. Now, that opens up another thing about nobody wants to lose anything. I believe perhaps you want to reduce the size of your fat cells, but it's not about losing it per se. That's again, it's the energy. Where your intention goes, so comes your experience. So, but really, your chi, your energy is your life force, and how it's not what you tell your children or with your work colleagues, it's how you show up. And so, how could, and you alluded to somebody who have challenges getting out of bed, and I've had those clients too. And by seeking to understand what exactly is, and obviously, another time maybe talking about toxins, because that's a huge one, certainly with some of my clients, because I'll do hair tissue mineral analysis and what have you, but certainly seeking to understand exactly that which they are doing, which is not really taking them in the direction of enhancing their chi energy. And so just a simple breathing type meditation would certainly help.
Yeah. Now, going back to that big picture, as I mentioned, there's 3 stages of adrenal stress. Stage 1, alarm. Then there's the adaptation, and then there's the exhaustion. So if you find yourself feeling exhausted, one of the really good questions to ask yourself is, how did I get this way? What have I been eating? What have I been thinking? And what do I need? Because you mentioned, Magnus, environment, because environment is the most powerful factor. And that starts with your home environment and your work environment and the people around you. And even the food that you eat creates your cellular environment.
Yeah, well, as you know, we're all products of our environment. And unfortunately, most people design a lifestyle around their own pathology. And if it's true, is it something like, 3/4 of Americans are on some prescription drug or have got some labeled dis-ease. So their body's not at ease. And as you rightly said, I think, and you probably know this over the years that I've been doing this now for over 29 years. And I'm still, because you might say, well, who is Magnus? Well, really, I don't know. But if I was going to label myself, I'd call myself a student and a teacher of health. So I don't know a lot about disease, Catherine. I'm sorry. I know we're not talking about that, but I know the flip side. I know a hell of a lot about health. And so obviously our job is to understand, well, really, what are people doing? But when you point things out to people, sometimes they're not ready to necessarily listen. And so really, I find the power comes from the question or questions when you invite them on the journey to seek to understand exactly what are they doing, which is helping them or not helping them. And that's powerful, I believe.
Yeah.
Because then it gives them those wonderful opportunities, if necessary, and I mean this, I'm not going to swear online when I say this, to feng shui their friends, if need be, because they're toxic. You know?
Yeah.
I know you can always choose your family. I remember reading a book many, many years ago when I did my first postgrad at Loughborough. And there was a guy called Frank Dick who wrote this sports book. He said, if you want to become an athlete, you've got to choose the right parents.
Yeah.
But really, as you rightly know, it's about our environment, because that shapes everything. And so that is critical, really. And it comes into the main thing also about this, and again, not swearing when online here, is about taking responsibility. I've got to take responsibility. But also when I'm working with people, it's that invite again for them to stop pointing fingers, because we know 3 point back, and to just, stop what you're doing, just take a step back, take a deep breath, and look what exactly going on here. I mean, let's go to something practical here. What an individual could do, really, because they say, well, what exactly is chi energy? What is prana? How do we harvest this? Well, if you imagine just contracting really, really hard for a moment, if you can, just sitting there, and then just relaxing, and just feel that sensation or those sensations. And although you can't necessarily see it, you can feel it. And LinkedIn, which we may come back to, is if somebody's weight challenged, the last thing I'm going to get them to do is to go and work out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Doing intense workout when you're in the later stages of adrenal burnout can be completely counterproductive. Really bad.
So that links into them. For them, again, reminding them that they can work in, and providing them with some good Tai Chi or Qigong exercises. So that, I don't like the term exercise. I use the term creative movement. Creative movement.
Yeah. So, and if our audience goes to my website, unlimitedenergynow.com, you will find a whole bunch of free videos of Qigong. And I can't even tell you how many times when I'm talking to people in adrenal burnout, it's like, go practice Qigong. And it's free on unlimitedenergynow.com. And even if you start out with, say, 7 minutes 3 times a day, that can really do a lot to change your state. But, also going back to what Magnus and I were talking about, if you think about money, you have an idea, at least a concept. You're getting money in, whether it's a paycheck or what have you, or people paying you, and then you're spending money out, and your energy is like this also. So if you're finding yourself exhausted, a really good quick and dirty thing to do is to do a personal inventory and ask yourself, what is draining me? Whether it's staying up all night, drinking too much alcohol, fighting with people, being depressed or angry, and what builds your energy. Being in a beautiful garden, being around orchids like my studio, being around loving people, having a coach like Magnus who's full of energy, that somebody that you can really come to harmonize and resonate with, eating fresh whole foods. So
linked in that, thank you for, if you don't mind me sorry interrupting there, Catherine, the basic thing to say is just barefoot, go for a walk. Yeah. That doesn't cost you anything. Obviously it'd be nice if it was on sand, or if it was in the woods somewhere, or certainly on grass. But, there's plenty of books written on earthing, but that kind of thing can enhance and increase your chi energy, and it costs you nothing. But these are things, again, where unfortunately we've gotten a bit lost, because even though we're called kind of human beings, we're just human doing all the time. And we're just avoiding self. And, it's all about, as I said, this thing, yin and yang. And the way I see it is that you've got your optimal health. And then down here, you've got literally death. And so there's a kind of a stages you go through, from pathophysiological stages. You talk about Hans Sale model. Well, now we're moving into pathomorphological stages. Now we're getting to signs and symptoms, and then we're dead. Yeah. And any time above ground is great. So while we are, what could we do to be of greater service to those around us? I know it obviously links with self as well, because everything starts with self. But it really, I find one of my greatest challenges, even though I like to think of, got a lot of energy, is to inspire people to really take a look at themselves, at what they're doing, and to make the necessary distinctions. And it can be hard, especially when you've been with somebody perhaps for as long as you maybe have, and you've just got to say, you know what, this isn't serving me anymore.
Now, we're talking about in this broadcast about how to develop empowered chi. And I want to make a comment that when I do a medical intuitive reading, literally the first thing that I do is read a person's life force energy. Because, and 50 out of 100 would be average for a person your age. So if you're 22, I'm comparing you to a 22-year-old. If you're 80, I compare you to an 80-year-old. But 50 out of 100 would be average. And what I find is when people have consistent practices of eating organic foods and drinking pure water and practicing yoga, tai chi, qigong, and practicing meditation and practicing kindness to themselves and others, you can, over time, you can build seriously excellent chi. And when you have good empowered chi like Magnus does, then it has this radiating effect so that you uplift literally everyone around you just by being you. Wouldn't you say? So Magnus, for example, has excellent chi, and he, just by being Magnus and by coaching people, he can uplift people.
Yeah, it's that beautiful invite, for people to, again, take that responsibility, and obviously just, it's not a destination. It's not like, you go to one aerobics class in a year and I'm done. It's an ongoing practice, and it's to find those practices, those habits that really do increase, keep on topic here, really do increase your quality of life. It's not how long we live, it's our quality of life. And obviously quality of life is linked to our prana, it's linked to our chi energy. And it's not necessarily, it's weird, isn't it? Because even though we're having this conversation, Catherine, people wouldn't necessarily see it like that, but obviously you and I can. And so again, it's that invite for people just to, again, maybe the three most powerful words that I can come across is, I can learn, and just be open to other suggestions and other things that they can do, which can just move them to a whole new level. And as you know, it's not what you say to your children, it's really how you show up.
Yeah.
So really, your life force is everything.
Your life force is everything. I couldn't agree more. Now, in my book, The Difference Between Pain and Suffering, where I talk about how to get out of pain naturally without drugs, I have a chapter in there about how healthy people and wealthy people think alike. Because if you've ever been around extremely wealthy people, they're always trying to figure out, how can I build my wealth? And healthy people, they don't just wait until someone gives them a cancer diagnosis or they have a heart attack. Healthy people are always thinking about, how can I be more healthy? What's going to, again, build this empowered chi? So what are your comments on that? Have you noticed that thought process?
It is. It's absolutely. I mean, if I look at, obviously, speak about myself over the last 29 years, it's always been based on health. And I've had some challenges when I was an undergrad. I had chronic sinusitis to overcome. I thought, okay, well, that's been sorted now, and I had to go to California. I lived in Denver for a year, actually. But then when I went to California, I was reminded a few things I could do to actually improve. And so I moved my energy to the next level. And I thought, oh, I'm there. But that wasn't it. And then there was some parasite, I'll call Mother Nature's police force to overcome, parasites, fungi. And there's always something. But there is, that focus is that anything to do with health, to do with well-being, to do with vitality, I'm just thirsty. And I'm there to learn it, apply it to self, and then to those ready to listen, to remind them. But it's not, it doesn't seem to be kind of spoken about a lot in the media. As you rightly alluded to, most people wait until their left foot falls off. And you're like, well, why wait to become disabled? You could do something about it now. Mm-hmm. And it isn't necessarily a cost. Like you touched on organic foods, absolutely. Well, I say, Get to know your local farmers now or pay your doctors more later. And all waiting causes suffering. Don't wait, do it now. You know? So, you know, putting in, obviously, as we're touching it, it's on the list there, food, absolutely critical, because one of the questions that I asked them is that, have we ever considered what is reselling me? CELL. We don't ask those kind of questions. What kind of information is actually in this product or food that I'm about to consume? Yeah, that's going to enhance my chi energy, my life force. We don't ask those questions on a regular basis. I mean, you and I probably do, but it's critical, you know. So
Yeah,
again,
and that's a great question, Magnus. If when you sit down to eat your food, if you simply ask, is this food going to build my energy?
Right. Just that simple question. I mean, to be at peace. Often I did a YouTube many years ago about surrender and be at peace in the knowing of ongoing incompleteness. Everything is, we're not the same people since we started this conversation, but everything's turning around, and well, we need energy to do all this. So where's it coming from? And obviously most of it is like, obviously from our environment, most of it's likely to be from our food and from the water. You touched on the water, again, it's critical. But when, again, not swearing online, when people take responsibility and literally start being mindful, start being conscious of what and when they're eating and how they feel about it as well. Because you and I know if we eat something and it's not right for us. I mean, well, the other question you could be asking, because this is a big, huge topic which is expanding, is about the microbiome, the microbiota.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, people aren't necessarily asking that when they eat the food, and that affects everything. You know, you've got 4 or 5 pounds in your stomach. I mean, obviously bacteria is everywhere on skin and everything, but really that's important because that feeds first.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'd like to think, certainly with this conversation, this will inspire people to, again, take that responsibility and just maybe ask themselves more empowering questions, which ultimately will enhance their chi energy.
Now, Magnus Mulliner, energy expert, what do you think is the number one thing everybody wants?
Well, you know, for me, and I'm not going to throw religions out there, but I spend a lot of time at a Buddhist place, and I believe everyone just wants to be happy, and with that, there's an addendum to that, free from suffering. Ultimately, we just want to feel good. Mm. So to me, that is thank you for asking. That is a wonderful question. That everyone wants to be happy, everyone wants to be free from suffering. I just want to feel good. So how do we do that? Well, again, it's linked into our topic, which is vital. You know, yeah. How do I improve? How do I enhance my chi energy? And you and I know that when we ask that question over and over again, we're flicking through your book, or your book will suddenly land, or we're flicking through a magazine, or we'll suddenly tune out of anything else, but we're going to tune into that program. And all of a sudden we're learning. And not only learning, we're then applying it, and then we're taking our well-being to a whole new level.
Yeah. You know, the reason that I start my medical intuitive readings with a reading on a person's overall chi level is because when you have good life force energy, you may go through a difficult period in your life. You may lose a loved one. You may have to move your house, or go to another job, or you may go through a divorce, or a child may become sick. But if you've got good life force energy, you have personal reserves that can carry you through. You've that empowered chi. It's not just for yourself. Again, it's going to help everybody around you, and it's going to give you some reserves to get you through the challenging times in your life.
Sure, and you so well said. It's. I think it's unfortunate. It's linked in that you more talked about money, because I see money as a storage vehicle for the expression of appreciation. But I find that people are almost like living to their paychecks, and they don't seem to have much in reserve here, Catherine. But when it comes to your life force, it is essential, obviously. So I think at any one moment we get those opportunities to ask ourselves more empowering questions. But you also touched on something which, again, to me has been a great reminder that in our lives, we have these events that occur, unfortunately or fortunately. And I'm sure you've heard of Byron Katie before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she has it. I remember listening to her many years ago about when things occur, And you know what's interesting is when people die, they die exactly on time. How do we know? Because they're dead. And when people are born, they get born on time. How do we know? Because they, not NHS time, you know, they pop out. Yeah, they come out, whether it's the normal way or whether they have a cesarean. But everything occurs on time. So if an event occurs, and again, this hopefully will empower people to understand this, there's a revelation. Oh my God, look what's happened. Yeah, that's the first thing. But instantly, when that happens, we can integrate that moment. Yeah, we can come to terms with it. And if we are able to, without resistance, because it's futile anyway, we can then transform ourselves. You know, one of the two main things that I do with my clients is that I remind them is, one, never, ever take things personally. It's not your job to do that. You know, you can engage the ego and this is to me, or this can actually be through me. Two ways of looking at it. And obviously, if this is to me, that's stressful. We're burning up our chi energy. Yeah, the stinking thinking, the emotion elements are going on. Not a genius formula. But if we just allow it to pass through, or we could ask the question, what are the benefits that I hadn't realized? I can hear your dog.
Absolutely.
We've got some OC cats, and I shut them in because Sorsha would be all over me.
Yeah. Now let's talk about, Magnus, let's talk about some things that you and I do to enhance our chi. What sort of personal practices that you follow on a regular basis help to improve your energy?
There's two main things that I do. As soon as I get out of bed in the morning, and I would say at least 6, if not 7 times a week, I actually do my stretches. So I'm going to label them as yoga stretches because I'm at my warmest anyway. And sometimes I'll get my sons jumping on me, but I will do all my stretches. So that's all the major adductors, hamstrings, calves, shoulder, deltoid, all that. And with that, as I say, because generally speaking, as we get older, we become less flexible. Not I. So I do my stretches. And I also, because when I wake up in the morning, although I'm not exactly firing on all cylinders, it doesn't take me long when I'm doing that to suddenly feel fantastic. And also I'm winning while I'm doing it. The other thing I do, and you'll understand this, is because I've known Paul Chek since 1998, and I've followed a lot of his stuff. And so I actually do the primordial rocking. I do the cheat stick. And I do that every single day. Now, I'd like to say I do it in the morning. It isn't usually, but usually before bed. But that's something else I do. So when we're talking about working in creative movements, those are two that I do religiously. So I make it important. I make Magnus important to do that because I also realize when I'm on the front line getting things done, that's almost like taking energy away from me. So if I've got too much yang, not enough yin, I need to, so by me doing those two things, I find I don't have these highs and lows and even the caffeine fix and all the rest of it. Yes, I do like, I have coffee with ghee, organic ghee, but I have days without it and I don't get headaches and all the rest of it. I don't have low dips. But those are just two things that I do. And obviously I also attend weekly an Aikido class. And that, again, through the passive movement series, predominantly is putting energy in as opposed to out, except when we get thrown around the place. But that's another story. So does that make sense what I've shared there, those two? Primordial locking and doing stretching.
Yeah, now I'm going to share some of the things that I do. And I also want to share for my audience my book, Unlimited Energy Now. It goes through everything you can do on all 5 levels: physical, energetic, emotional, mental, and spiritual, to rebuild your energy. And I've had people go, oh, I know this. And I'm like, you know what? If you're an adrenal burnout, maybe not. But I'll talk about some things that I consciously do. First thing I do is when I wake up in the morning, I very consciously set my vibration for the whole day. What do I mean by that? I do my best to get in as positive, uplifted, happy state as possible. How do I do that? I start by literally talking out loud about how thankful I am and how happy I am and what a great day it's going to be. And I just start out with as much enthusiasm as possible. Another thing that I do is I teach Qigong every week. And it's interesting. I taught Qigong yesterday. And what was funny was being the summer, a lot of my students were gone. So I missed teaching Qigong for 2 weeks. And what was interesting, instead of teaching Qigong, I went to the gym and did very intense workouts. And then I was like, I don't understand why I'm so tired all of a sudden. And it's like, and yesterday I taught my Qigong and we were all talking about how much better we felt because we're doing our Qigong. And, you know, so many people think, well, you know, I'm doing this intense exercise because I want to look good. Well, if you damage your adrenal glands, you're going to damage your metabolism. And when you damage your metabolism, you're going to find yourself insulin resistant. You're going to find yourself weight loss resistant, meaning it's hard for you to lose weight. And a lot of my clients, I help them heal their metabolism so that they can lose the weight. I have lots of people who come into me and they're hardly eating anything and they're exercising for hours and hours a day and they can't lose weight. That's because your metabolism is damaged. So anyway, so I start the day with as much enthusiasm as I can muster, and really thinking positively about the day. I practice Qigong regularly. Yeah.
Well, linked in with that, Catherine, thank you for sharing that. Two things came up for me. Again, you can Google this. I did a YouTube years ago on the essential 8 S's that will enhance your quality of life. And the first S is just to smile. I mean, you could change your whole physiology as well as your biochemistry just by smiling. So as soon as you wake up in the morning, just smile. The second one, linked in with some of the stuff you were saying there, is to sing. And again, you will change your frequency or vibration just by singing. Now people say, my neighbor won't like it. Let all that go. You know, you'll enhance their quality of life in another way because they can let that go. And one of the other S's I remember as well, because it's been about 7 or 8 years ago, was to study. But yeah, these are simple things that you can do which can actually improve, enhance your chi energy. There was something else that came up for me as well that I was going to share, and right now it has gone, but I know it will come back to me and I'll share that as well. But that to me was just so important about the things that people can do that don't cost anything, that are wonderful habits which take them to a whole new level.
Absolutely. Because it really goes back to your daily habits. And every day you're either building your chi or you're depleting your chi. Just like you're either building your bank account or you're depleting your bank account. So now if you're dealing with a new client, because I know a lot of people come to you like me, they come to you and they're exhausted. Where would you start with somebody who knows they're depleted?
Well, you kind of touched on something before, which is interesting. I think that it's not that people don't necessarily know, it's just that the meaning's not there, and therefore they are choosing not to make those changes. A case in point would be somebody who, you and I know, well, in England, if you do more than 35 in the 30 zone, you can get a ticket. Yeah. Well, I know that. So how do you get a ticket? So knowing is one thing, applying what you know is something else. But once again, with a client when they come up, is I need to, because everyone's uniquely different, so I don't have a definitive way of working with people, but certainly for me, seeking to understand foundationally what is really going on for them and how I can be of service to them. That's the main thing. So, and you'll know this as well, I don't take on all people that come to me as well, and that's being kind for both of us. However, if I believe that our frequency, our vibration is right, and I believe that I can inspire this person, then obviously there are wonderful tests that can be done. I alluded to hair tissue mineral. I work with a wonderful teacher of mine, has been for many years, Emma Lane, and so we're using parasite testing. There's blood testing, stool analysis, and so on. But I don't do necessarily with all people, and obviously I use metabolic typing with people who are willing to, again, take that responsibility and willing to, to look at what they're doing. I think, again, where do we start? Looking in the mouth, if they've got metal fillings, their breathing patterns, obviously, if I'm working with them on Skype, some of these can be more challenging. But I've got on my website, I've got paperwork quite thick that I get people to download themselves, print off themselves and complete, and then send back to me so that I'm able to become them in one sense and understand what they're doing. Those distinctions they're making, what time do they go to bed, what kind of exercise or creative movements they're doing, and so on. What foods are they eating, when are they eating, so what time, all those things and more. But the other thing I wanted to share, which you alluded to, let's get technical. Let's start talking kinesiology here. Kinesiology is the study of how the body moves, as we know. But let's just talk about your heart rate. So would it not be empowering to know what your resting heart rate is? So before you climb out of bed in the morning, I mean, most people have these watches that can do it. I've got a polar monitor, or you can use the radial. The carotid isn't necessarily good, because if you put too much pressure on it, baroreceptors will slow the heart rate down and give an incorrect reading. So radial is probably better. Or if you've got, this can do it. So let's say you take your pulse rate over, say, 7 or 10 days and just do an average. And then if you know, because you know yourself, that your beats 5 above, don't work out. Work in.
That's a great advice. So if you wake up in the morning and your heart rate is elevated, it's not a good day to work out. That's a really valuable piece of energy. Now, and people can download this paperwork at mtenergy.com, and that's energie.com, which is Magnus's website. So really great information. And, personally speaking, talking about exercise, all exercise is good, but not all exercise is good for everybody. So, I'm a big believer in tuning in. Some people believe that it's mind over matter, and that, we need to learn to push. And I feel that, we live in a society where people are pushing all day long. And it's, as Magnus says, it's smarter to tune in and say, what do I need to do to replenish my chi? So, for example, in the past month, my stepfather died. There was a lot of things going on with other family members. And I noticed I just needed to spend more time in my hammock. It's drug-free and legal, right?
Exactly. So I suppose that journey then is getting to know who Catherine is, getting to know who Magnus is, getting to know, fill in the blanks, who you are. And that's often so easily avoided, because people can be distracted by their mobile phone, distracted by what's going on there and all. And these are just energy drainers. Often again, seeking to understand what people do, I just say, this is an invite. Turn off your television just for a week. Don't listen to the news. How do you feel after that week? Well, until they've actually done it, we don't know.
Yeah.
But I think, as you rightly said, because we kind of live in this society that's go, 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 we've got to achieve and all the rest of it. And you know what success is, don't you? Climbing the corporate ladder, making X amount of money, being married for so many years. I challenge all of those. But anyway, whatever success is for the individual. But I think one of the take-home points, certainly with this recording, I'd like people to take home, is that if you are weight challenged, if you are inflamed, if you're suffering from malnutrition, if you are not sleeping right, and obviously Dr. Schwartzbein principle, don't even think of working out. Yeah. What you need to do, what we've covered, whether it might be yoga, tai chi, qigong, pilates, something which is putting energy in as opposed to energy out. Now, if you think that you know self, and most people think that they do, and off you go, and then you feel tired shortly afterwards, then maybe you've just had a little gift there to learn that you trained too hard. So maybe next time, or even if you do feel tired, then that's when you can start doing some of those creative movements we touched on to put energy back into the body.
Yes. Now, Magnus, what empowering questions do you feel people could ask themselves that would actually improve their empowered chi?
Right. Well, right off the bat, what was funny about that I hadn't realized? Now, for most of us, we don't ask that kind of question. Normally we take it, again, we engage the ego. Ego stands for edging God out, if the late Dr. Wayne Dyer once mentioned, where we're taking it personally. But actually, if you look at it, what is actually funny about that? Now, a lot of people are not necessarily going to ask that question. And I'll go, well, one day you will. I'll go, well, why are you waiting? Do it now. Because as I said, all waiting is a form of suffering. Don't wait. What is actually funny about that? Another question you could ask yourself if you find you're in a challenging situation would be, well, what can I actually learn from that? How could I grow from that? What were the benefits that I hadn't realized? And you could put like little addendums on the end of that, which will make me feel great. But so here's my homework. One of the things I do with my clients, again, not everyone, because everyone's uniquely different, is I allow them to go away and create, design, write 10 empowering questions that take them closer to where they want to go. Yeah, sure, they could do a gratitude journal. They could, write down 5 or 10 things at the end of every night, what they're grateful for. Fantastic. But what about writing down empowering questions? So whenever they feel low energy and all the rest of it, it's easy to default to the negative, woe me, this is always happening, why are you doing this to me, Lord, or what, and then we go into the blame stuff, rather than click into the questions that they have actually written themselves. I've obviously come up with a few of them, but they can obviously come up with their own. So what are the benefits? What's actually funny about this? What actually, if I look at it closely, could I love about what I've just seen? I mean, or how would love respond in this situation? What would love say? I mean, how many people ask themselves that kind of question? There are probably millions of questions, but it's got to work for them. It's not something I necessarily, again, give them, but provide them with the space to come up with those 10 or more empowering questions. Just keep it in your pocket or have it close by. So whenever you're feeling negative or down, instantly go to that and just change it. Like the late Dr. Wayne Dyer once said, look, if you want something to change, you've got to change the way you look at it. But so many of us were staring at the proverbial door that's closed or shut. How's that working for us?
Yeah. Another great question is, if you find yourself in an uncomfortable situation, is why did I create this? Right. Because you actually create everything in your life. Why did I create this? Maybe you created this because you do need a break. You do need to spend time in your hammock. Maybe you don't like your job, in fact. Maybe you need to do something different, right? Why did I create that? Exactly, because that's that. Again, we're not swearing on the air here about taking responsibility again, which is such a tall order for a lot of people, because we're so, in England, we're still blaming Maggie Thatcher for something, or maybe John Major. That's a UK joke. But the other thing as well, and I want to touch on it, is something sprang into my mind here. You and I sometimes, and maybe this is medicine for us, we take life too seriously. And being serious kills passion. Worse than that, it kills people. That's why we're in Afghanistan, Syria, and all the other misdemeanors going on. So certainly for me, and even on Facebook, when I ping things on there, I'm always at the end, and this is for my benefit, not taking life too seriously. Life was never meant to be serious. You look around at other animals and other insects, they're not taking life too seriously. and I want you to take me seriously because I'm being serious. So yeah, just find the light, the fun, the joyousness. It is there, but we're required to change the way we're looking at it. I find that's worked for me, and when I invite my clients to do that, they find it too. And it's not difficult. However, you and I mean, sprechen Sie Deutsch? Sprach ein bisschen Deutsch, aber Französisch kann ich sprechen. Well, I didn't go to one German class to learn that. I had to keep going to a German class. You had to keep practicing. If it's true, practice is the mother of skill. If what we're learning is skillful, I had to keep going. You had to keep going to the class. Qigong, you didn't suddenly learn it after going to one class. You had to keep practicing it. And it's the same thing. It's for people to find that passion, that drive, that dream of theirs, which will move them to a whole new level. And as a side effect, no, there are no side effects in life, only effects. They'll increase their chi energy. So Magnus Mulliner, energy expert, you talked about working out versus working in. I think we have an idea of what working out means. That's traditional exercise. What do you mean by working in?
Okay, thank you for that. So working in is a movement which, when you perform, your heart rate is not elevated above, say, I don't know, it could be 80. I don't know what your resting heart rate is, but let's say it could be 80, 90, 100. Again, if you're mindful about that form of kinesiology, you're not sweating. And when you are performing it, you are increasing your energy, you are increasing your prana. Yeah. So a case in point, it could be just a simple sitting and breathing exercise, eyes open, eyes closed. One of the things I do when I remind others through like Buddhist teaching type thing, when you're breathing in through your nose, you can feel like, if you will, the cold air coming in, and then as you breathe out at the tip of your nose, you can breathe, so you can actually feel that sensation. So just by sitting there, just doing a simple breathing exercise could increase your energy for some people. Other people, it could be simple movements. And obviously you've demonstrated some of them beautifully in your videos, just pushing out, breathing in, slowly squatting down. There are tons out there, and obviously I'll refer them to your videos, that they can perform as a habit. But the idea is for them to find what creative movements work best for them. Yeah. So, but it's any movement. It could be yoga, tai chi, qigong, any of those things that actually puts energy in, so that they actually feel energized while they are doing it, and certainly when they finished it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Great advice. Magnus Mulliner, Chi expert at mtenergy.com. Magnus, any final thoughts on how we can build our empowered Chi?
Thank you. I would say, get to know self. What works for you? I mean, from another point of view, maybe this is a record another time, there is no I, there is no me. However, whoever you are, what could you do which will enhance your quality of life, your chi energy, your prana energy? And certainly to leave you with, again, those empowered questions, that when you start practicing the smiling in the morning, the singing, and all the other things that we've touched on, you yourself will start to become the change that you like to hear, feel, see in yourself. And obviously you'll see that around you as well. As the old saying goes, as above, so below. Everything starts with you. And yes, we are all connected, but once you start finding out who you are, what works best for you, then you will take your whole well-being to a whole new level.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at unlimitedenergynow.com and catherinecarrigan.com. Our guest today has been Magnus Mulliner. You can find out more about Magnus and his wonderful work at mtenergy.com. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, when you take the time to build your personal chi, you heal yourself naturally. We'll see you next time.